Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm Dr. Janet McMorty and I am your host, as well as a medical doctor, also pursuing a career in acting. This is the final episode in our Love, Loss, and What I Wore celebration week. I hope you've enjoyed all the other episodes, celebrating the incredible women that I had the privilege of sharing a stage with in Mariposa Arts Theater production of Love, Loss, and What I Wore, which was the first time I stepped on stage since I was in high school. So it was a memorable one, and oh, what a production it was. It was great. This last episode celebrates the incredible Stephanie Anderson, Stephanie Wilson. She got married. Stephanie is a first act actor. She went to theater school. She is a choreographer, voice actor, triple threat, singer, dancer, actor. She's also an improv performer. She and I performed together with the old dance hall players, and we talk about this in the episode. We had a moment in the play, Love, Loss, and What I Wore, that I will never forget. I completely blanked on my lines in one of the shows, which had never happened to me before. I thought I was having a stroke. And the look that she gave me, she was almost about to save me, right? Almost about to save me, but then I, remembered my lines. But the look she gave me, just this look in her eyes of just utmost you got this. I will never forget. And that was a pretty pivotal time for me in my acting career because, I think I have trust issues, right? We talk about trust a lot in this episode. And that really made me realize how important it is to trust, humans in general, but also especially the people on stage with. Trust that they got you. They got your back. And girl, Stephanie, I love you. I got your back. You got mine. I'm so excited to be performing with you in Improv this summer. I hope you all enjoy her incredible story. Please enjoy Stephanie Anderson Wilson. Tell me your story. How did you get into the acting biz?
Wow, that's a loaded first question. Okay, well, so my family's always been involved in the arts. My mom is a dance teacher. So growing up, I was in dance right from the get-go. And then around 12, I wanted to start singing lessons. So that's when I started that. And then after that, I started doing summer camps, musical summer camps. And my mom would usually do the choreo, and there'd be someone doing, the music, someone doing the directing. And that's kind of how I got into acting. And then I really loved music theater. So in dance, there's a category called musical theater where you lip sync to a musical theater song. So we always had to do our research, and if it was an Anna Green Gables song, okay, I would have to go back and look at the characters and see where they're coming from, and we'd costume it in period, and then we'd, learn the song and practice lip syncing. But we were kids. So now there's also a category called song and dance where you live sing, which is legit musical theater. So I always loved that too. And then in high school, I went to Unionville and I auditioned for the acting program, and that's where I got in. So that's really the first time that I started taking it quite seriously. And I knew that I had singing and dance outside of school, so I picked the drama program and loved every second of it. And so I learned a lot of my base foundations there. And then I went to the Randolph Academy for college and continued my journey with musical theater and acting.
Was there ever... Okay, so a lot of people that I chat with, right, they're the second act actors, right? They've had a career prior to pursuing a career in acting or drama, theater, whatever, the more creative. A lot of them were told growing up by someone, parents, guardians, teachers, whoever, there was always a fire inside of creativity, but they were told that's not a logical, smart, sensible career path. Were you ever told that growing up?
No.
And what made you kind of say, screw you?
No, I was really lucky. My parents always supported me. And I know I'm like a minority in that regard. I also knew that this is what I wanted to do out of high school. Like I went straight to performing arts. Wow, words. I went straight to performing arts. I didn't have a career before that. Like, this is my life. This is what I do. This is in my blood. And my mom has always been like, I call her Mama Rose, like from Gypsy. Like, she's like stage mom in the best way. Like, she's always been so supportive of me, of my friends. My friends all call her their mom because a lot of my friends didn't have parents that supported them right away, or, they moved to Toronto from all over to go to school, and they didn't have like family there. So my mom kind of like took them all under her wing. And my dad was like supported me and like paid for my dance, my singing, and like all of that. But it was my grade 12 musical we did, Les Mis. And it was really cool because we were an art school. We had people in the arts program for like music, vocal, visual art, drama, dance. So all of that combined, the school actually played the entire show. Like the Arts York kids played the show, and it was incredible. And I got to play Eponine. And I'll never forget that my dad came out afterwards, and he was crying, and he said, "I now understand why you do what you do. Like, you're very good at it. Keep doing it." Ugh. And I'll never forget that moment. So, he always supported, but he supported quietly. And then when he like saw my passion and drive when I was, a young adult, and could be like, "Oh, I get it." And something as moving as Les Mis, like, he blasted that music for the next 3 months. So, yeah, I'm really lucky. I never had to say screw you because I always had the support.
Tell me about theater school. What's that like?
It's crazy. It's you are up, you are like in ballet class at, you are up and in your tights and leotard by like 7:30 in the morning. You've got dance classes in the morning right off the top, and then you go into all kinds of things. So Randolph was, when I went there anyway, it was split into 6 terms. Each term focused on something different. So throughout, you had individual vocal coaches and musical theater performance classes, and then you had like voice and text classes, and your Shakespeare classes, and music theory classes, theater history classes. So you had written things as well as a ton of physical work and vocal work, and just learning how your body works as a whole to perform. So, living down in Toronto was very exciting. It was like the first time I had been out on my own. And I remember like getting up and getting my tights on and walking to school and going to class right away and being so tired all the time. And we just go hard from morning to, I don't know when it ended, maybe like 4:00. And then you'd probably have a rehearsal after school for something. And then I was lame and just went home and did my homework and went to bed most of the time. I could not fathom like a nightlife because I was so emotionally and physically exhausted going through theater school. But it was the best experience. Like, I loved it. I wish that I could go back knowing all that I do now and like take way more advantage of it. But yeah, it was very exciting. I made some of my best friends from life there, and I just feel very lucky. I worked with a ton of industry professionals, and they were very kind because everybody, you all at that age are kind of like doubting yourself, and you see these people in your class that are so amazing. You're like, wow, I don't know how to act compared to that. And they just help like focus on you and sculpt you, and find your niche and all that kind of stuff. So,
can you elaborate a bit more on wishing you could go back knowing what you know now? Like, what do you know now that you didn't know then?
I just, it's a funny journey because you get out of school and you go into these auditions and they teach you how to audition, how to slate, how to introduce yourself. And you get into these auditions and you psych yourself out. And it takes a while. Like, it took me a while to get to the spot where I accepted when I knew that I was giving the best I could and being my best self in an audition, and trying not to get hung up on the fact that the odds are low, right? Like, there's so many people that come out, and at first it was really hard. Like, it's crushing. You get rejected all the time. And then as soon as I started accepting the fact that I'm like, you know what? This is good. I'm going to do this song because it suits this character, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to think to myself, I'm going to book it. And it was usually those auditions when I had like the most confidence in myself and my ability that went well and that were successful. So it's this crazy journey, and I feel like getting through that, and then now like being able to, on the flip side, teach kids drama and dance and choreo and use everything I've learned and project it onto them, and project my passion onto them and teach them with the skill set that I have from all of my schooling and life experience. It's like, wow, I'm so much more set in who I am. And if I went back to school, I would appreciate like the slog better, like the long nights of writing like 30-page papers and all that kind of stuff, and really like diving into the different areas of theater and never like taking a class for granted. I don't know. There are days where you're like, ugh, I just don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to go to school today. I'm so tired. Like, but just getting that training every day was so good. And it's also, school's expensive, but doing workshops and doing classes now as an adult is also very challenging. A, to find the time, B, to find the money, C, to find the right like fit for you. And you just got like a slew of everything at school. And going back and like being able to attack my monologues and attack my songs and like not be afraid to belt or not be afraid to, make a wrong choice, and just, I don't know, I really loved my schooling. So I think I would gain like a whole different view going back now. Does that make sense?
The confidence you have, yeah, it totally does. Like the what I'm wondering about is the confidence you have now. Where did that come from? Did it come from just life experience after graduating, time? Like, where did that confidence build from since you graduated?
Well, I still don't think of myself as to backtrack, as a super confident person. Like, there's a lot of times that I doubt myself. You saw that in rehearsal process. But
don't we all?
Yeah. But I mean, I know what I'm good at, and I know the things that I'm not ever gonna book, even though I may want to. I'm never gonna play a little petite ingenue soprano. That's just not me. And before, I was I had a hard time accepting that, because everybody wants to be the ingenue, but I'm the second banana. And now I accept that, and I'm good at that. And so I don't know. Yeah, it comes from experience. It comes from realizing and seeing those times where I was let's be my best self, and let's just do this, and let's do this true to you, and then booking that. That gives you a lot of confidence, and you get that call, and you're oh, that's so exciting, and wow, yeah, I felt really good about that. And sometimes now, I just go and I do it, and my goal is to feel good about what I did, and then I just kind of leave it. And when I get the call, then it's very exciting. But if I don't get the call, I'm not crying in my bedroom, There's a few, like when there's a show you really connect to and you really thought you were going to get, you go through rounds and rounds of auditions and that kind of thing, and then you don't get it. Like that, those are heartbreaking, but you move on and you find something else. So it comes from a mix of things, I think, like life experience for sure, and auditioning and being true to you, and then, you know, booking the part. The proof is in the pudding, I guess.
Yeah. So what did life look like for you, like since you graduated from theater school up until now? Like, what are you up to? What have you been doing?
It was good. I was lucky enough. My agency booked me off of my second, fifth term we do a play, sixth term we do a musical. They came and saw, we invite agencies, they teach us how to like put together a resume package and everything like that. So we invited agencies and they came, and I actually got booked off of my fifth term show. So I couldn't do like auditioning right away because I was still in school. So I did a couple like voiceover auditions and things like that. But then I was really lucky because I had my agents right behind my back, and they were pushing for me, and I worked right out of school doing my first professional show was Angelina Ballerina. And I was a tap dancing mouse. And in a mouse unitard with clothing attached. It was something. But it was really fun, and you know, kids theater is a whole joy and ballpark of its own. It's so different from, you know, what we did, for example. And then I've been lucky to work pretty consistently. I've worked really hard to do that, and it's also, you know, I've made a lot of good connections and networking and all of that. And then what year was it? Probably around 2015 was when I got asked, I work at St. Andrew's College in Aurora, and I got asked to choreograph like my first show on my own. And we were doing Oliver, and it was really fun, and I loved it. Like, I always choreographed for myself. I choreographed like for dance numbers. That's like competitive dance is how I grew up, so that's kind of how I would choreograph. And then getting to like look at the show and picture in your head, like, okay, how do 50 people look in a formation here? And how can I move them around on a 3/4 thrust stage? And how can I make this visually appealing for everyone and in the style of the show? And I loved it. Like, that would overwhelm some people, but I loved it. So that was the first one I did. And now I'm their resident choreographer there. And so I choreograph all their main stage shows, and then I also work in their Focus Festival later in the year. And I work at another private school in Richmond Hill as well, doing choreo. And I come in and do like dance workshops and stuff like that. So now it's really nice because I've kind of dipped my toes in both the performing side and the other side of the table, like, you know, choreo, directing, all that. And it's really great because it gives me an opportunity to continually work when there's, you know, because it's hard to book performance gigs one after the other. There's usually a lull, and self-employed is always fun for many things. That's kind of where I'm at now, and now I'm dabbling in voice work too, which is really, really great. And I do from my own homemade closet, hand grommeted moving blankets.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, and one of my cartoons is out now, and I'm working on a second one, and that's just really fun, and doing like commercial voiceovers. And I've been doing a lot of that auditioning lately. With COVID, I didn't really want to go into a lot of in-person auditions, and now I'm up in Aurelia too. So, I've been focusing more on voiceover stuff, and it's so fun. And you get to record remotely from your closet in your pajamas, and just have a blast. And I love that. So it's kind of evolved like from performing, and I still love to perform. Like I love it, but I know that realistically I'm not going to do that forever, which is why I also dipped my toes in the choreo and in the directing and now in the voice work. And if I could do it all the time, I would. Like I truly love it, but I'm open to gaining whatever experience as long as it's within like the industry. That really brings me joy.
Mm-hmm. For the choreography piece, was that, I know you said kind of you always had those like kind of visions in your mind of how like dance numbers would work. Did you have any training in that, or is that genetic just because your mom?
She would love that question. I didn't have training in how to choreograph. But I grew up like I was a studio rat. I grew up in the dance studio from, age 3.5 to 16, 17. So for me, it was like when kids need an outlet and they maybe read a book or write in a journal or go for a bike ride. I went down to our basement, and my mom has a small little studio in the basement, and I'd put on music and I'd choreograph for myself. And that just like to express how I felt, it was always private, but I just loved to do that, to tell a story. Like lyrical contemporary was always my favorite style because your job is to tell the story. So it's a mix of like acting and dance. And so that was always a thing for me. I always loved to do it, but I had never dabbled in doing it with big groups. Like the most I had done was like maybe a duet for a comp season, like for dance, but I hadn't done like a full-blown production. And now, like, I just play the music. I'm like, I know the next show I'm doing, okay? I start playing the music, and I just start envisioning it with the stage space that I have. And I'll listen to the song a whole bunch of times and just kind of let it come to me. And then I write it out with my awful stick figure drawings and X's of where people are supposed to go and how they're supposed to move. And no one probably understands it but me. But it's a passion for sure. Yeah. Natural
That's
instinct.
really cool.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, it's genetic. It's genetic. It's interesting because I was having what's funny because I was thinking about I have no choreography training. I did some dance growing up, but I definitely have that in my mind. Like if I hear a song, especially a song from a musical, I tend to choreograph something in my brain, whether it's like a figure skating routine. I've never been a figure skater. Musical theater number. I've done one musical in my lifetime. I don't know where this comes from, but yeah, it's interesting. I think there's something about I think there's a type of like brain that does that.
Yeah.
And that's what I think of when I hear music.
Yeah, and you naturally want to move, right? Like when, for example, before the show that we did together, when they put on a song just for us to move around to, it's like you naturally have a rhythm, you in particular, but you can see it. Like you're naturally doing things that go to the music. So it does come naturally, I guess, to some people, especially if you have had dance training because you know how to count in 8 and how to, put a sequence of steps together. But my mom always says to me, she's like, I don't know how you choreograph for that many people. Like she does, the biggest group she's done, I think, is around maybe 20, which is fair and big. But like sometimes the cast is like 50 people and it's crazy. Like 50 people on stage is nuts. And and then 50 people of different abilities, right? So then I really have to think, and I have to, the boys at the school, for example, I need to make it athletic because that's what they key into. That's what they know. So that's how they relate to the choreo. I can't be like, and kickball change, pirouette, I'm like, okay, so you're going to do this, like, in football when I know nothing about football. When you do this, it's like, yeah, do this. Okay, so good. Let's do this jump. And, but trying to like match all different ages and all different abilities. I don't know. I like the challenge.
That's super cool. And I would have, yeah, to think about, and then to add in the fact that they are high school students, who, like, that's a tough age group. It's a tough age group to wrangle. I was a tough to be wrangled when I was in high school. That's a skill.
And we bring in, like, a lot of the time we'll bring in teachers for the adult parts. So the kids get really excited that the teachers are coming in, and then the teacher's like, I have to dance? I'm like, oh, yes. Don't worry. I'll make you look good. And then, you know, it's a boys' school, so we bring in the girls, and sometimes we bring in people that are, you know, doing this as a living, depending on age group and parts and all of that. So it's a cool mix, and they see the people that are professional, and they get inspired because they know that they can't just goof around. They're like, they want to impress. But yeah, it's great. I love it. And I choreographed a show for Smile Theater as well. So it's nice. It was nice to do that too, out in a different environment. And I do want to get into that.
That's the company
more.
that goes into. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
That's the company that goes into retirement homes, right? You were saying?
Yes, they perform for senior citizens. We do professional theater for senior citizens, and it's an incredible company. And it's, you know, such a shame that so much has been crazy with COVID and they weren't able to go in, but they've made it work. They've done like online serenades, and now they're back out at doing summer serenades and all that kind of stuff. So it's a wonderful group of people.
That's so cool. I want to chat about Love Loss.
Yeah.
And our production
My
of
wife.
Love Loss. And it kind of ties in. Yeah, wifey. We got married in the show. Spoiler. Spoiler. Because it's interesting because it kind of ties into what you're saying about working with people of all abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you, out of the five of us, are the only, we're the only professional, right? I shouldn't do air quotes. It's not air quoting professional. You are a professional actor, right?
Yes.
The rest of us are, you know,
Amazing.
teacher, doctor, right? You know, like, so I think there was, and it was not pressure put on any of us because it didn't come from anywhere. But I remember being like, oh my God, Stephanie's like legit. Like, get your act together, Janet, because this is legit. And again, it's not like there was any pressure put on us by anyone, but I was like, okay, like, this is somebody who does this, you know, step up. But yeah, tell me, like, how did you learn about the audition for Mariposa Arts Theater? Like, how did that come about? So
my in-laws work for Matt a lot, and they do stage management or props and set deck and all that. So my mother-in-law messaged me and was like, oh, look at this audition. They're looking for a Stephanie, because that was one of the characters' names. And I was like, oh. And then I looked into the show and I was like, wow, like, this looks really awesome. I loved that it was kind of a mix of short scenes and monologues, that it was all female. It was like material I knew I could use later down the line, like 4 monologues when auditioning. And I really, really wanted to get involved with the community here because still feel like I'm pretty new to Aurelia. And I did a show way back at the Opera House, and I was dying to do another show there. And it's, you know, a stone's throw from my house now. So, but, you know, I have to go around and, like, I had to get permission from Equity to do the show, and I had to talk to my agent and, you know, fight for my case. And I said, well, I think it's going to be really good because it's a new community for me. It gets me put out there. I get to connect with people and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it was all a go, and I am so glad that I did it. I was really, like, pumped to do it. Really pumped. So it was a long process, as you're aware. Kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and then was happening in a really crazy time for me. But yeah, you know, and Zoom rehearsals, like, wow, let's hope we never have to do that again. But we made it work.
Agreed.
We made it work, and that's how I heard about it. That's why I really wanted to do it, was to connect with my community, and I loved the piece. And yeah, I think we did an awesome job.
I think we crushed it. It was so lovely sharing the stage with you.
Aww.
I will never forget the look on your face when I forgot my lines and you were about to jump in, and then I remembered them. But I remember just the look on your face was just like, you freaking got this.
Yeah,
it was like you were holding my hand with your eyes. And I was like, okay. And it's funny because I hope that level of fear is never in my eyes ever again. But I look at your face a lot when we do improv together, because there's this trust that I'll always have with you. And, improv is all about trust. And, again, spoiler, we're in an improv troupe together now. But woo! But there's that level that I think came from the insanity that was that play, the rehearsal process, connecting really quickly with you as an actor, but also you as like a human, and really, really.
I know. I remember our little
I want to be friends with you.
Our little side chats on Zoom, being like, oh, "That was so good!" Like,
you were so good at that. But I think there's something about trust that I didn't really understand. And I think as an actor, until I kind of got in the position of needing to trust people, where I wonder in theater school that, is that a learned thing? Like, you have to trust your fellow people on stage. Like, how, as people who are second act actors who struggle with that, do you have any advice?
Trusting is huge, and
yeah.
I don't you're told to trust your fellow actors, and I tell kids all the time, look, if someone doesn't know their line and you know the line, like, make it happen, help them out, put it into your character's voice instead of theirs, or ask them the question, like, oh, did you find that? What were you looking for again? Give them a prompt that puts them back on track, because I can't stand people leaving others hanging out to dry, right? Yeah, I guess my advice would just be, know your script inside and out, because it's good for you, and it's good to be a support system for your fellow actors. Like, there's always a way you can make something work, and if it's improv, just be there and be open and be ready to jump in with something ridiculous or something of your own. If that person is like, which I often do, jump in and be there. But yeah, it's also, acting is a huge vulnerability thing. Learning to be vulnerable and letting people in while being vulnerable is something that it takes time to learn. And then trusting them to have your back, to take your hand, to, it's a process. And the more you work with certain people, obviously you gain that with them. Or if you have a moment like that moment. I didn't realize that was like such an impactful thing for you. But I'm glad that it was in a positive way. And now we have that, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just, you have to trust. And if you don't trust your fellow actors, the play is not going to, it will read from the audience. At someone watching it, you'll be able to tell, like, oh, they don't really have a great connection. And you don't, not all characters have to connect like this, but it's interesting, because often when I'll watch something and I'll talk to someone after, I'll be like, oh, did the rehearsal process, like, did that? And they're like, oh yeah, disaster. Or, or I'll be like, wow, these two had a really good connection. Oh, yep, they've been working on their stuff, like, since day one. They've been, like, taking their own time, and you can tell. Like, you can tell the work and the trust that goes into things.
it's interesting because I know I chat with people who've been through theater school a lot about this, and it was actually like Stacey and I who were talking about it. The idea that in theater school they're really teaching you that emotional vulnerability and to be able to express it openly so that the public can see the emotions on your face, in your body, in your words, right? Where in medical school, we're taught the opposite. It's, you feel in your body the emotions, but you should not be expressing it on your face because you don't want to impart that you're scared to your patient. It's kind of like the flight attendants as well too, right? Like I remember being told the only time you should worry when you're on the plane is when the flight attendant looks scared, right? Because you're taught like
terrifying.
Calm. You want to be the calmest, right? I know, right? But same with like surgery, right? Like, you don't want your surgeon to be like, oh my God, right? They want to be, calmest person in the room, right? So it's been a difficult thing for me to learn how to, for example, show I am sad. Now the world can see I'm sad because I'm like, I'm feeling it, I'm saying it. And then the people watching are like, yeah, your face is literally, you're like this. I'm like, but I'm feeling it. But my face, like, it's that emotional restraint that I know I've been struggling with. So it's like the flip opposite of like theater school, medical school, and I'm sure like other professional schools, like how to dig into that vulnerability, but also be able to express express private emotions publicly.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on that or advice?
I guess my thought on that would be, in school, yes, they want to teach you that, but they don't openly be like, now we're going to do a class about vulnerability. It's through all these other classes. Like we had all these movement classes where it's like, okay, pick a vowel. Now like hum on this vowel and like move your body around the room. And so it was like very, very like theater exercises, which, I loved because I've always worn my heart on my sleeve. I'm an emotional person. I know that. But that's also been a challenge because sometimes like I really have to watch what I channel when I'm acting because you don't want to get so caught up that you lose the plot. And a lot of the time it's more interesting to watch someone that's about to cry than someone that's crying.
Right.
But it's also, we also have that as actors, what you were saying too, like if you're the fear of doing your first operation or something, people get really afraid, and that's the saying, like, fake it till you make it, baby. It's like, okay, put your big girl pants on and let's pretend like you know exactly what you're doing and go out on that stage with full gusto, because inside we're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Right? So that happens too. It still happens in the acting industry. But yes, we are encouraged to emote and to let ourselves go there. And I think, also you as Janet have such a sunny disposition that, and you have this beautiful smile that I can totally understand you being like, I'm feeling it, but you like look like this.
Sad.
I'm sad. But it also is, it's such a good release feeling too when you, and I think again that comes back to trust, and when you trust your fellow actors on stage, then you start, and you had moments where you totally let go. You 100% had that. And it's was further in, like, when you started to trust what you were doing and the people around you. And, like, doesn't it feel good when you can just fully drop into a moment and just be present in that moment with all the things going on in everybody's life and all the white noise? And, it's like in meditation when they're like, and just stop thinking about anything. I'm like, okay, like, that's not going to happen. So when you have that like beautiful acting moment and you can just be in that moment as your character and just drop in, it's like so rewarding. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's an addiction.
Yeah,
It feels so good. And then you're like, give me that back, please.
Yeah.
It felt so good.
But you can't force it,
Yeah.
because then if you try and force it the next time and it's ingenuine, it does not work, right? So it's just letting yourself go there and feeling. It's a combination of trusting yourself and trusting the people around you, and knowing that the audience is there for the show in the context of the show, and that it's okay to go there, whether it's like extreme rage or sadness or a psychotic episode, like who knows, or tantrum. Like, they're there for that. They're there to support you, and you have to trust your own work to just be that person and not be you in that moment.
Do you have any memorable or funny on-stage stories?
Yes. This one I was there, but this one will haunt my best friend for the rest of her life. And I'm going to tell this story, and I hope she's okay with it. But we were doing a production of Spring Awakening, and there's the scene where, do you know that show?
Ish.
Okay, so the show is all about like teenage angst. Anything you can think about, it's like full of everything inappropriate, everything that teenagers go through. It's an amazing show, and it's a period show, but then they break out into these songs, and the songs are like how they're feeling in their head, and it's like almost like they're in another world with the songs, and then it goes back to their structured lives. So it was a number called I Believe. And those that know the show will know this number, and they're basically having sex on stage. The cast is like all around the two main characters singing this beautiful like song, and we're really there for them in that moment, which was, that's another great example of trusting people around you on stage. And the guy playing the lead got a massive nosebleed, and they were like making out. And we're singing, we're like, I believe. We're like, oh my God. Like, he was just gushing blood onto this girl playing Vendla. And you couldn't really see from the audience, but we could all see because we were right around them. And my first thought was like, don't get it on the costume. Don't get blood on the costume. Don't get blood on the costume. So then intermission hits, and he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she's like, I was just like swallowing your blood. She's like, that is disgusting. And they were like running down the hall. He's like dripping blood down the hall. I'm like, don't get it on the costume. I'm like, cold water. So that was like a story that I will never forget. And I'm glad it didn't happen to me. But yeah.
Holy
that's one that comes to mind.
There's nothing more incredible. So I ask this question to everybody, and the people I get the craziest responses from are the people who do live theater, because there's just nothing like it. It's so unpredictable. It's just such a gong show. Yeah. And it's like, okay, like the show must go on. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's like so many things like that, and when you put like little kids in the show, it's like, oh, why were you late for your entrance? Like, I could not find the kid. Like, they were not where they were supposed to be backstage. They were running around. I couldn't find the kid. It's just like crazy. And then in the same show, I forgot one time to do a preset. Oh, so bad, I know. And I was supposed to hand off this like piece of woodruff to the girl playing Vendela, who is the lead, and she just like, I had to not break character, but I had to tell her that I didn't have it because she like was coming to me to get it for the scene, and I was just like, and like walked away off stage. She's like, Remember that time you forgot my wood chip? And it's just another thing we just joke about. It's like things happen, things get crazy, things happen.
Yeah.
People forget presets or they forget to move something and you got to just accommodate. It's just like helping someone out with a line. It's like, oh gosh, someone dropped like a pearl necklace on stage that split. Okay, how am I going to pick up these pearls that I can see? And, you make it work. And there's a lot of people that actually don't have that instinct and they'll walk past it like 5 times. And sitting in the audience, you're like, pick it up. Like, use your, like, make a reason. So, but then you always have the people that come along and I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, thank God for you. But yeah, stuff happens all the time. I'm sure I have a million stories.
Well, and I wonder about your background in improv and just like now doing improv as well, right? Like, I think as if you get stuck in, and I'm guilty of this, like logical brain needs to know where everything is at all times. Like, you should see the spreadsheet I have for all my presets for this 1-act play that I'm doing, right? Like, I need to know where everything is, all my blocking, blah, blah, blah. But what has been so helpful is improv and just releasing that and being like, calm down, use your instincts and just go with the flow because the unpredictable will happen. Like, do you have any advice for people like that who are just very stuck in like everything needs to be this way, and if it doesn't go that way, it's panic?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my experience in improv doesn't really exist. Like, I did a couple classes in school, that was it. So it's very new to me.
That's more than lots of people.
It's very new and very terrifying and very fun all at the same time. But yeah, like you said, like I write out on a giant cue card. I write out each scene, like where I enter and exit from and what I bring on. And then on the back, I have a list of all my presets. Because no matter how well you know the show, when you're running around and doing a million things at once and you have your everyday life to accommodate for as well, I need to have something that I can just look at that's already been thought through and I can go, got it. Good, okay, good. Everything's ready to go. And, usually for the week of dress rehearsals, I keep that like right on my person. And then as I start to feel fine, I just kind of let it go. But people that have to have everything perfect, theater's probably not for them. Like, you have to be able to laugh at yourself and to let things go. Like, you have to go with the flow. And that's a huge thing of theater. Like, you have to be able to just be like, oh, this person skipped 5 lines. Cool. Let's keep going. Because everything can happen. You could be the person that jumped the cue. Someone else could jump the cue. Maybe it means that you don't end up bringing that weird dress on from stage right. Like, who knows, right? But you just have to be able to go with the flow. And again, it goes back to knowing your script inside out, knowing your cues, knowing what they're going to say, how you can rework the situation. If they missed a line that was like crucial to the plot, you got to get it back in there, but yeah, you have to let it go at a certain stage. You can be a perfectionist. I get it. I am that way. You can do that all through rehearsal process, but you have to trust your own work at the end of the day. That's my advice. You got to trust your own work. You've put in the time, you know your script, you know your character, you know what you're doing. So stop thinking about it because it will just come to you and just be and just perform. You have to trust the work.
It's great advice.
Trust the work.
I love it. Trust the work.
Yes.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, you know it, and there's nothing more frustrating than watching someone that knows it second guess themselves, right? It's like, and I've been there too. I've been that person second guessing myself, but no, it's like, it. Trust your instincts, do what you feel is right because that's what's most true to you. Sometimes the best person to watch on stage is the person that has no theater experience because everything they do is so genuine. People that are coming into it that are new and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, but you are so lovely to watch because you are just there. You're present. You're in the moment. You're there, and everybody else is like actor brain, like like overthinking everything. And so
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like, yeah, you can almost overeducate yourself. And it's overwhelming, I think. I know, especially someone who's like, I've been starting to take acting classes and stuff, and there's a million different ways to act. And, you know, which way is the right way? Is there a right way, right? It's overwhelming. There's a lot of theories, and this way's the best way, that way's the best way. And sometimes I just think, oh my gosh, there's just too much going on. Just go back to the basics and just listen to the person who's sitting across from you.
Yeah.
Which is so simple, but so tricky.
And say your text to someone that means something to you. So it's not just words in the air, you know, channel it. And you know what? It's funny because I say this to Claudine all the time, but Claudine, who is in our show, her like Boots monologue, for example, I have never seen someone so natural and so, you know, like everyone was wonderful and everybody had extremely amazing moments, but that monologue for me and her instinct of just saying, like, it was stunning. And she and she's someone that doesn't have that confidence in herself, and I'm like, but you are so good. Like, that is, I would watch that over and over and over and over, you know? So sometimes people don't know. But again, like, there's someone that's not used to being on stage all the time, and watching them is so cool because it's just so genuine. It's so real, so honest. Shout out to Claudine.
Great, Claudine, we love you, Chloe. I got like goosebumps just thinking about her Boots monologue.
I know.
Like that, yeah. And I was thinking about some of the stuff that, like, well, like you're saying, everybody was so great in that show, but like some of there were a couple lines that Laurel said that that's the reason I had to have Kleenex in my pockets, because I was like, she's gonna make me cry. Like, oh god, yeah. Is there anything you are looking forward to this year?
Oh gosh. I honestly, like, I can barely think ahead day to day right now. It's like everything is there's so much happening and so much like, oh, we're going to do this show in the fall, we're going to do this, and I get all these calls, but I'm like, okay, but I get the summer first, right? Like, I get the summer. So my husband and I are going away on a trip out east, so I'm really excited for that. And I'm really pumped for all our improv shows that we have coming up. That's really exciting to do throughout the summer. And you know, I've got projects and stuff coming up. I've got some more record dates for cartoons and commercials and things like that. So I'm really excited for that. But, you know, I'm also just excited for life and for it to be summer and warm and nice weather, and can't wait to swim in the lake and go out east and eat lobster, and, you know, there's so much more to life than performing as well, right? Like, I understand that that's what we're talking about here, but, you know, don't get me wrong, there's so much more. And people that get hung up in everything is performance related, like some of my friends would ask me that question, what are you excited for? And I'd be like, well, I'm getting married. They're like, no, I mean in theater. I'm like, oh, well, that's not my whole life, you know? So, I'm excited for what the summer brings, and to hang out with you more and to see your show. I'm very excited to see your show.
Oh, I'm so excited for you to come see it.
Leave a surprise as to when I'm coming.
Well, it was more just Claudine was like, do you want us to tell you when you're coming, or do you want it to be a surprise? I'm like, surprises are fun. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, wifey, for being my guest this week. Yeah, spoiler, we got married in the show, so wifey. I hope you've enjoyed these 4 episodes, this incredible Love, Loss, and What I Wore week. That show was really key for me. It really reignited, I should say, the creative flame that we all have, that I have, of course, that had burnt out for sure. Being back up on that stage really made me realize how much I love performing, how much I love being on stage with other human beings, and again, relit that creative flame that had 100% gone out. So I appreciate you all, you lovely four women. I appreciate the friendships we've developed, the friendships we continue and maintain. And thank you to Mariposa Arts Theater for bringing the five of us together. It was an incredible production and something I'll remember for the rest of my life. Thank you again for tuning in, and I hope you'll join me next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Oh, now I'm getting emotional again. Okay, bye.